This video is going to be about doing a dual trace on an injector. So we're going to look at the voltage and the amperage. So let's get started. First of all, let's look at the hookups. So we're going to be using two channels. We're going to be using channel A and we're going to be using channel B. This one's going to be for voltage, this one's going to be for amperage. And then over here on the car, I've got a T-pin stuck in the injector that I want to look at, and I've got a amp clamp around the wire of the same injector. I've got the amp clamp turned on to 20 amps. This is a 60 amp clamp and it's turned on. And I've got a ground over here on the battery terminal ground. I've got the Pico software turned on, and I want to show you something that I learned today that I had never run into before with Pico. So just kind of passing on the information that I find. So we're going to go up here to automotive, the automotive tab, and we're going to drop it down. We're going to go to actuators, and then we're going to go over here to injectors, which is petrol injectors. And then we're going to come down here to multi-point, which is voltage versus current. We're going to click on that. It'll bring us up to the example page to show us what we should see. And this page right here, this is what I wanted to point out. I was having a difficult time when I was setting this thing up, getting ready to record. I was not getting a signal, a clear signal on the injector. And so I couldn't figure out what was going on. So I went back and I read this right here. And there was something in here that I spotted. It said for the black probe, the negative probe, to hook that up to a battery ground. And what I was doing is I was going across the injector. So I was going from the common on the injector to the signal on the injector, and I was not getting a good signal. I went to a battery ground, bing, got a perfect signal. So this is really good information. Don't pass it up. If you are having difficulties getting the signals that you're looking for, look at this page. So I'm going to minimize this in case I have to refer to it later. This is the signal I'm looking for. This will be the injector. So we have the injector turns on here, it stays on, and then it turns off and spikes up and goes over like this. This is the amperage. So the amp comes over here and you'll see the amperage start to climb. If I can get my hand out of the way. We see the amperage start to climb right here, and then it comes up, and then it has a little peak right there, and then it goes across. So the current, as it comes up, when it gets about halfway, it maintains the current across, and then when it shuts off, it goes back down to zero. So let's see what the injector looks like. We're going to go ahead and start the trace. And remember, on Pico, there's a little green arrow right down here in the corner that we're going to click on. That'll start our trace. And I'll start the engine. And there's our trace. Now you notice I can't see the trace very well. So the red one down here, the amp, you can adjust it over here on the far side of the screen. So if I take my cursor over there until I get the arrows that point up and down, and then I left click it and drag it up, I can drag that signal up so that I can see it. I can do the same thing with the blue one. It's over here on the left side of the screen. So I can go over here until I get the arrows going up and down. Then I left click it and drag it, and I can move that signal up and down too. So I like to set them just right on top of, or right next to each other, so I can compare really well. So this way I can see the entire trace, and everything seems to be working good. Now if I want to move it over this way on the screen, what I need to do is I need to grab this trigger point right here, which is a little yellow dot. So I put my cursor on that dot right there, left click it, and then I can drag it over about right there. And that moves it over so that I can see it better in the middle of the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and pause it. Now I can shut the car off. And this is the signal we were getting. So this looks almost identical to what we needed to see, or what we expected to see. Now what I want to do is I want to show you what happens when you rev the engine up. You'll see that pulse width change. So this area right here on the injector it'll lengthen out and then it'll shorten up. So I want to show you that. So we're going to go ahead and start the trace again. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to accelerate. You see how it accelerated or jumped out like that? Now I'm going to accelerate and hold it. The thing I want to point out on this is when you accelerate, when you stomp on the throttle, it was going clear over here. So you got an injector pulse width that was from 0 to 7 milliseconds, maybe even 9 milliseconds over here. So you had a really long injector pulse, but it didn't last very long. And that is because the engine was not under load. So if you were under load, that injector pulse width would last a long time. The opposite is true. When I let go of the throttle, you notice that this shrunk up. It went down to less than probably maybe 1 millisecond, when this right here looks like it's about 3 milliseconds, because you got 0 here and you got 3 here. So that's about 3 milliseconds there, and it went down to probably about 1 millisecond, and then it stretched back out to about 3. And the same thing is they don't want the engine to die, so it's going to shrink it down a little bit, but then it'll come back up. So just so you can kind of see and understand what's going on with the fuel injector here. But anyway, that's all there is to doing a trace on the fuel injector, a dual trace for amperage and voltage. So we'll see you in the next video.